Another episode of Cork in the North here, joined by the fantastic stand-up comedian who's out on tour in February 2023. It's Colin Murphy, ladies and gentlemen. Colin is a regular on the BBC Blame Game and also one of the most respected comedians on this island. Colin, thanks so much for coming in, man.
Respected.
Very respected.
Can I have a...
Yeah, take a drop of water, yeah. Very respected, because I think the first time I met you was you were probably hosting the Empire and I was coming over just to do like a 20-minute set when I was kind of quite green.
Yeah.
And I grew up watching you on the panel down south.
Immediately, see, two things there. One, it's lovely, it's very nice sort of, thing to say. Someone's very respected. But then you say, I grew up watching you.
Well, we have to acknowledge that before I was a comedian, you were a comedian. You were a comedian.
I am old, is what you're
not
old.
What I'm saying is that like you're a comedian that has basically like been around for a long time. That shows you how good you are. But like I remember watching the panel on RTE. When I was starting out, and like at the time that was really popular.
Oh, huge.
Was it you, Maxwell, Delamere, Dara,
and Ed?
And Dara was living in London, wasn't he? And was he flying back for it?
Ed, Dara, and Max.
We're all in London.
We're all in London.
So let's get an Irish panel show of people from Ireland living abroad.
Yeah.
Who then had to do topical
I was the
news
only one that lived in the island.
Yeah, exactly. And that was like, it was a topical show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So obviously this was before the internet, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't that long ago.
Wasn't that long ago? Was it late 90s?
No. Mid 2000s. But
my apologies.
Yeah.
My
but
apologies.
2004, 5.
Oh, you're fine. So yeah, because you've got that great knowledge of knowing the North and the South as well, don't you? In terms of the news and stuff. So you've been able to transcend the Irish panel show of up-to-date news and Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil and all that. And then in the North, you're obviously, on the Blame Game. And then you have the North.
I grew up with RTE, you see.
You grew up in RTE?
We had RTE.
Right.
Where I grew up in Downpatrick, right? Yeah. And we lived at the top of the hill. And you had to get a special aerial anyway, because it was UHF, VHF, whatever it was. So you had to get a special swap over aerial. So you could tell. It was like basically putting a tricolour up if you got an RTE aerial, because it went up further than your ordinary aerial.
So you go, there's the Catholics.
Yeah. If they'd only known at the time.
You wouldn't have to like raid the houses. You just look for the
just
aerial.
go, there's one.
So you grew up watching RTE?
Yeah.
With the Late Show and all those things?
That, yeah.
So you had a very vast...
Yeah, we used to have a thing in the house that my dad would watch something on the news, and there'd be something would happen here in the news, and he'd watch UTV, because we never watched BBC. And so he'd watch UTV News, and then he'd flick over to RTE. That's what really happened.
Because like UTV, like, fucking whatever it is, like a shop has been robbed, and then over in RTE it was just like someone's just done a bit of pickpocketing.
Yeah.
It's just completely descale it down.
A shop has been robbed. What's that sentence? That stops in the middle. Back to you in the studio.
So when you
UTV's got really slack now. They've run out of money. It's like all these wee smaller TV stations, commercial stations, they've all run out of money. So the person that's doing the reporting, I genuinely saw this one night. The person that was doing the reporting handed back to themselves in the studio. And they were hosting the news. Back to the studio. Thank you, me.
The power of editing.
Yeah.
That is mental.
Yeah.
So, growing up watching RTE, what was your impression of the south of Ireland? Like, because you're living in the north, but like of life down south when you were kind of growing up watching RTE. Did you feel like you were missing out, or did you feel it was better up here, or what?
No, mayonnaise. That was my main takeaway.
Mayonnaise.
Hellman's mayonnaise was constantly, as far as I could see, as a child, being advertised on RTE. Constantly. In the 1970s, early 1980s, it was mayonnaise ads. Every opportunity there was a mayonnaise ad. And they were quite squish ads. They were bought in from the States, so they had that nice, 80s sort of, soft focus look on them. And then it was mayonnaise, and I was going, they're living in the future. We've got salad cream.
We need to go. You know the way when they do a fag run to Spain, you're like, we need to do a mayonnaise run to Dundalk.
I never seen mayonnaise. Nobody bought mayonnaise. I don't know anybody in mayonnaise. We had salad cream. That's all I ever used, was salad cream. And then you said mayonnaise.
But there are the subtle differences, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like between the north and the south. Like,
I don't know how you. There must have been somebody.
Did you ever have Tanora up here?
Tanora, no.
Sidona.
Yes, I know Sidona.
You've said
no, that wouldn't be up here, but I know it.
But you know of it. So, but then again, if you go down to Cork, like it's very hard to get like a pint of harp down south.
Yeah,
like in Cork. Now, I'm not sure about Dublin, but like,
and even though it's made in Dundalk.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very hard to get. But yet again, made in Dundalk. But up here,
yeah,
like fucking everywhere.
It's
like
everything.
tenants. You know, when you go to Glasgow, you get tenants.
Yeah.
I was in Glasgow recently, and I walk in, and I'm I hate tenants.
Yeah.
And I've got tenants and Stella, and I go, well, which one is the fucking least worst for me? Now I know some people love tenants, but I don't have. So I'm like, what else have you got? And I was one of these bars. They were like, I'll have a Stella.
But you're young. You don't remember probably. Cans of tenants used to have pictures of women on them. No, you don't remember.
No,
that.
I don't remember that. No.
So you used to get cans of tenants, and they would have not like in the nip or anything. It was just like women on the back of them, and they were all Scottish women. so it was called like Sandra, Kirsty, all this sort of thing, and they were just standing in like sort of vaguely country and western type outfits, the type of outfits. They look like the sort of women that would be revealed behind salted peanuts in a bar slowly.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And which in the old days was basically that was why we watched porn.
Are they women that were in playing cards?
Yeah,
that kind of
thing.
stuff.
And nothing,
Nothing rude.
A bit cheeky.
What was the
nothing...
marketing strategy behind that?
I don't know, but there was a friend of mine that was convinced he could only get drunk on Karens, so he would. Have you got any Karens? And so he'd swap out whatever he had. I'll give you a Kirsty for a Karen, and then he'd have a kind of like 6 Karens.
It's like football stickers, you swap.
And he'd be locked on the Karens. No. Deirdre doesn't get me full.
No. If I drink Deirdre, I'll go home and kick the shit out of the dog.
Yeah.
Well, if I have a drink Karen, I'll have a good sleep.
Bad reactions to Deirdre.
That's insane. So, because now that I'm living here in the north, like, and I do see the differences. Obviously, when you go down south, like, what was your perception of the southern people when you were growing up? Did you feel that they didn't like you? You liked them. You wanted to be with them. They didn't like you. They were suspicious of you. You know, when you were starting out doing gigs, maybe you were going down to Dublin and stuff. Did you feel you got a bit of a look because you were different?
We used to go
from the north?
on holidays. You see, down south all the time. I never went abroad ever, and so we used to go camping down and travel around Kerry and Galway and weird places in Mayo, sort of, and there was no mayonnaise. And so I was up and down all the time, and it was, there was no money, and that's all I really remember about, like, to come from here and go down south and go, this is poor.
Really?
Yeah, like Dublin was like completely boarded up. Bits around O'Connell Street, which are worth millions now, were boarded up.
Yeah,
and just all that thing of buildings having from exhaust fumes and from years and years of there isn't money to clean. Let's not clean the buildings. That was only a new thing. So, and Cork, I went to Cork once, and I put me off Cork for years. When I was a kid, I went to we went down, we were camping around Cork County, and then we went into the city one day, and it was around Patrick Street and stuff, and it was really that sort of grim.
Yeah, I know.
And then there was a swimming pool. There was a pool of municipal baths somewhere off Patrick Street. Red brick building, but really like dirty.
The Victoria baths, something like that.
Something like that. And really old fashioned. Like it was a Victorian bath,
I'm just trying to think. Maybe that could have been a bit before me.
Maybe I was in there and
you went for a swim.
I couldn't swim. This was the weird thing. So my dad couldn't swim, my mum couldn't swim.
They're trying to kill you.
But we go to the pool. And then they think, well, there's nothing to do. We'll go to the pool. And it was freezing. That's the number one thing about it. It was absolutely Baltic. And there was nothing but old men coughing. That's all I ever remember about it. And there was a man with a hump. And
on his back.
Yeah, when I was a small boy, that was a freaky thing to see.
I remember seeing people with humps in Cork.
Yeah,
really bad. And what year are we?
Was there a lot of people with humps in Cork?
I remember when I remember like when I was about 9 or 10, I used to see the hunchback. And I thought, and that was like, now if you see that now, you go, they're bent over too much on their phone. But like, actually, like,
it's probably freezing.
There was a guy, there was a guy.
Freezing.
I used to go to school in the city, so I used to get a bus or a lift in the morning from Carrigaline, and it would take maybe 45 minutes to go to school, and I would have to walk from the Cork City bus station up past Merchants Quay, turn right over St. Patrick's Bridge, up past Bridge Street, city limits on your left, and I would go up the hill.
Up the big hill.
Up the hill, St. Patrick's Hill, and then I would turn right by 96 FM and then up Sydney Hill. And I would walk that twice a day for 6 years whenever I was in school. And you'd always see the same faces, because when you're going in at a certain time, you see people going to work. It's a common routine you'd see. I remember it was always this guy, and he was hunched. Yeah. And he'd always have a grey blazer on. And I always saw him, and I just looked. I often thought to myself, whatever happened to that man? How did he get this? Some sort of condition that he was born in.
That was never fixed then.
But Cork has many hunchback people.
Well, as you got closer to the city, did people get more sort of?
I don't know. I just think when I was growing up, I remember we used to see him all the time. We used to always have your local weirdos as well. Not weirdos. I would say weirdos is the wrong stage. We used to have
And
your
he's
local...
not in the weirdo group.
Yeah,
but
but
I
like
know what you mean.
your local winos.
Yeah.
You know, that would hang around at the end of Bridge Street.
Personalities.
Yeah. People that... took to the bed. You know what I mean? Like
Characters.
Local people that, are friends whatever, Characters, yeah. Now, one thing I've always noticed, the great about you when you talk about Cork there, is that you go to Cork every summer. Is this right?
Yeah.
So when did this start and how does it come out? Where do you go when you go into Cork?
My wife is from Cork.
I knew it.
And her family are all from Cork.
I'm surprised
City.
you don't live in Cork. I'm surprised she never... So hold on a second, where did you meet your wife?
In Belfast. She was studying up here.
So she came up here, 19, 20 or something?
She came up here, to do her... Because they lived abroad. And then they moved back to Ireland, and then they were living in Dublin, and then she had to come up here to repeat A-levels.
Right.
And then stayed. So
you met her out one night at a pub?
No, I met her just through friends from then years later. And...
So she's from... What part of Cork is she from?
But so her family are all from Cork City.
Right, okay.
And but she's lived all over the world. Like she's lived in Dublin, Belfast, and Japan, and Barbados, and New York, and everywhere. Right, just her dad's job. So, we started going down there when we got married and things, and because every summer for her was spent down in
for school holidays and stuff like that.
Yeah. It was down there. It was 2 months.
So where do you stay when you go down?
Down in Union Hall in Glandore.
Oh, beautiful, isn't it?
I know. Brilliant.
I was in Union Hall just before the pandemic. And you know that little restaurant that overlooks the...
Yeah.
You sit outside there and you get that on a sunny day. Yeah. And a nice pint. Yeah. And you're sitting there with your friends. Yeah. And you're overlooking it. And it is one of the...
fresh club clothes from across the road.
Because I would have spent quite a lot of time down in Kinsale. Going on nights out and stuff like that. And my mum used to have a mobile home in Garrettstown. Mm-hmm. My mum had a mobile home in Garrettstown for, I would say, maybe 5 years. Yeah. I spent one night in it.
No.
My brother would go down. My brother's a teacher. He would go down, and he's a big cyclist, so he would go down for the summer. He wrote a book down there.
Yeah.
And so he would do Garrettstown, go down, set up for 2-3 weeks, running, beach, the whole lot. My sister subsequently bought a mobile home down there as well. But Glandore, Skibbereen, Union Hall, all those places, like, when you don't really appreciate it, until you're older, like, and also when you leave.
Yeah.
Like when I was in London for years, like Jesus Christ, I'd be like, "Jeez, I wouldn't mind now a bit of sand or like I would come home from night in London and I would like clean my face and the dirt coming off my face from the tube.
Oh, bridge bogies.
Black bogies and stuff. And you're like, I remember being told, like, you have to clean your face after a day in central London because of the dirt. And then you go to Cork and you're like, I don't need to clean my face at all because this is proper fresh. So when you go down to Cork, how long would you go for?
About a month.
And without going too much, like, do you camp? Do you have a place? Do you rent something, like an Airbnb or something?
Yeah, we rent a place. The same people are really good and rent it every year.
Right. And when you go down, you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah, walk in, move the furniture around the way we like it, and then not the way that. Then we move it back forward.
Change all the direct debits.
Don't do any of this. Yeah, and I thought for a joke one year, I thought it might be good to get one of those Cork County Council plans and permission slips that you put up. When you're planning to do work, build put it on their house, like put my name on it. All right,
Colin Murphy was put an extension on.
So when you
go down there, when you go down there, what kind of stuff do you do? Do you do activities when you go to Cork?
Yes, no, it used to be brilliant because the phone didn't work. There was no phone reception. So it was fantastic. No, it was brilliant. Nobody could ring me. Nobody could annoy me. Nobody could ask me to do anything. I was just off grid for a month, and then they got a bloody mast. And then there was a point where there was just one windowsill in the pub, and everybody had their phones piled up.
Oh my God!
All the teenagers, and then one would ring and go, "Shit, what fucking one?" and there's all sorts of really fancy people live around there. Carol Vorderman was living there when we started going. She owned a holiday house there.
Would you know Vanessa Phelps has got a place in Ballycotton?
I met her in the airport when I had to hire a car for complicated reasons on the way back this year. And the guy who was renting us the car is an English guy, and he's been living down in Cork for years. Loves it. Will never go back to England, he said. And he said the only famous person he's met, and I was going, is Vanessa Phelps. And then as he said it, she walked in. It was the weirdest thing, yeah. So I didn't know she lived in Ballycotton.
Down in Ballycotton, yeah. There was rumours that Madonna had a place down there as well. Now, that was a rumour back in the mid-2000s. Now, I don't know if this is true, but people were saying that Madonna's after buying a place in West Cork. And I just went...
Sorry, the best rumour I heard was about 4 years ago, that this was... And it was believed was the second richest woman, not the first, the second richest woman in China is thinking of buying an empty hotel down in West Cork. And you're thinking,
well, you know the Chinese have bought Photo Island.
Yeah, that's more I'm thinking. You can buy a whole island.
But they've already bought it.
The second richest woman in China could buy Cork, in fairness.
They could pump some money into Cork City or Cove Ramblers to get us into the Champions League. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind that. So when you say you go down there, you're off grid, do you work your year around those, say, like, that's my month off? Yeah. Like, so it gets to a point where you go, like, everybody knows your agents, everybody know Colin's in Cork, he's not available. And you go down, and were you bringing your kids down until did they come to a point where your kids were like, we don't want to go this year because we're too old?
No, they want to go more.
Do they?
Yeah, they've got their friends and everything down there from all over the world. They all come in. It's like one of these. I never did any of this when I was a kid. I never went to the same place all the time and have this bunch of friends. And so they've got all these amazing friends from all over the world.
And I suppose with your wife being from down there, will she have friends that obviously she grew up with in Cork or other family members that maybe still, and you'd all meet up, go for meals, dinner and drinks?
It's all the people she grew up with. They still go there. They were brought there by their parents. From London, from America, from France.
So basically it's just like holiday camp for you, is it?
And then so they all go there, and then their kids, and so her friends' kids are friends with her kids, and it's like another generation down.
So now you've another generation that are doing it as well.
Yeah.
And when you're down there for a month, like, what are you actually doing? Are you just sitting reading? Are you actually going out and doing stuff, or are you like, right, we're going for a trek today, dinner tonight, a few pints in the evening? Like, are you actually going into Cork City? You go over to Kerry at all?
Never go to Cork
City. Like, is it just literally?
Never leave.
You just sit, just becoming part of the furniture for the whole month. The people are like, "Here, Colin's back again, is he? You're down for your month, are you, Colin? I saw you on the thing there. You should be trying to be a comedian," and stuff like that.
It is all that sort of shit. And I bought a boat at one point because I lost the run of myself, and like a sailing boat, and like a wee small dinghy thing, but I couldn't swim, let alone sail. So I bought this thing, and then I thought, this is how patronised and how confident I was. I thought, sure, it can't be that fucking difficult. And it is. And so I could
just see on the headline, Space has appeared on the Blame Game panel. Colin Murphy is currently lost at sea. Like, you know.
I said, my missus, she was shouting at me, you've no respect for the sea. And because she could sail, but she wouldn't go on a boat with me. Right. And so I just went, well, I'm off. So I was fucking floating around the harbour. And it's the harbour, so everybody is sitting out watching you. So every mistake you make, when it's on the water, every sound is reflected, and everybody can hear me going, "Oh, for fuck's sake, fucking!" Because something isn't working. Yeah. And then you go up to the pub, all confident, and you walk in the pub, and then the boy will be standing going, "Are you the boy that bought the boat? I can't sail the boat." And I was known as the boy that bought the boat that can't sail the boat. And then everybody would tell me something that I'm doing wrong. They'd all see me, if you can take a bit of advice.
That's such a Cork thing. If you can take a bit of advice, I'll just give you a bit here.
Yeah.
That's such a Cork thing.
It's coming anyway.
Would you mind if I said this to you? They don't let it gap. Would you mind if I did this? But what you did there was wrong. You never even give me a chance to answer the question.
If you don't blame me, you're an awful whore. This is the best West Cork thing ever I heard. There was a guy who lives sort of locally. And he's a bit of a bollocks.
Right. And bit of a local bollocks.
Yeah, just a bit of a bollocks. Right?
Okay.
Just a bit, bit big I am. So I was asking one of the local boys, I said, what's the deal with him? And he says, put it this way. He says, I don't hate the fella. But if I clipped him with the car of an evening, I wouldn't stop. I check he was fine in the mirror, but I wouldn't stop.
I see. I know those people. We all know those people. Like, I wouldn't be afraid of. I wouldn't. If he did a bit of damage, sure, fucking, he'd probably deserved it. You know, that kind of way. But we don't want anything bad to happen to him. But we just want to send a bit of a message.
It wouldn't be the worst thing to happen.
It would be the worst thing. Whereas I'm the opposite. No, I'd be like, that him, fuck. I'd just be straight. It's like me with cyclists. Every time I do gigs, and I always say, is there any cyclists? And I go, what's the red light mean? Just look at him like, because if I clip him like a fucking. I'm more worried about the damage to my car than a cyclist, So, how many years in a row have you been going down?
Oh, I don't know.
A long time. Yeah. And you won't go to Spain or Mallorca or France or just any of that interests you at all?
No.
Nothing?
No.
You just go, Cork is what we are, Cork is what we do?
Yeah, no, I want to go fancy places. I do go other places. I go fancy places. And I do gigs and go fancy places, and it's good. This is my favourite Cork one, by the way.
Yeah?
That's my favourite.
That's your favourite. See, this is a thing of that as well.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone watching, the people that watch this on YouTube, so I'm from just this bit here, but when you go on your holiday, Colin, you go down around here, don't you?
That's there.
There, yeah. Just down around there. Yeah. And that's a trek, like.
Yeah.
That's what, 6 hours?
It used to be in 8 before the motorway.
Yeah, and you can't fly to Belfast to Cork
Oh, you
anymore.
could. You used to. It was brilliant.
Until the thing happened.
Until the
Fucking. Let's try and land it again.
Yeah, and then they went, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah,
it must be the only route in the world where there's just one crash and they went, no, we're not, stop. There must be a scud in that or something.
Yeah, but also Cork Airport is built on a fucking hill, which has fog. I mean, of course, Cork Airport is built on a fucking hill. And you know what? This is the most Cork thing as well. There was a lockdown for 18 months or 2 years or whatever. And then as soon as we reopened, they closed Cork Airport for 3 months to redo the runway. You had 18 months. You could have done it socially distant. They closed Cork Airport when life reopened.
I didn't know that.
Like, that's such a fucking Irish thing.
But it's a brilliant airport. I love it. But when you come in to land on it, I flew down a couple of times and I was so windy. I was looking out my window at the runway that was in front of me, and the pilot is...
Oh, yeah, you're coming in off the coast.
Yeah.
I've done that loads of times.
And then at the last minute, he goes...
Yeah, exactly. I remember I used to come home from Stansted all the time when I used to come home on a Sunday, because I would gig Thursday, Friday, Saturday, London, and you get the early flight Sunday, you get home Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, go back to London Wednesday off, gig Thursday. Yeah. And the flight from Stansted to Cork was you coming in, and next you're coming in here. Yeah. Right, so basically what happens is you're coming in here, or just here, and you're going, that's Waterford, that's Middleton, and next you come in, you can see a bit of Cove, there's Cove, there's Spike Island, Titanic, all that kind of stuff, and then he just comes in, and then you're just going, you're like, and he's coming down, you're like, fucking hell, where's the fucking airport? Like, it's just like he's coming into a green field, and just turns right, and then there's the fucking airport. Yeah. And it's mental. So there's 2 ways you can come in. You come in the north side, so they can come in there. So if you're ever coming in from Glasgow and Scotland, but if you're coming in from London, you always come in and swing a hard right.
We're flying from here.
Yeah.
Right? There. And yet there's a whole demonstration on how to put on a life jacket. Whole way. Unless the chances of us hitting the swimming pool.
That you went to when you were a kid.
There.
And in the event of in the case that we do land in water, you don't land in water. You crash in water.
You land in water if you've got a propeller plane.
Yeah, or you're that pilot that landed in the river in America many years ago, which was very interesting documentary. Have you seen that documentary? We'd be into stuff like that now. I'm a big aviation fan. I've done a couple of simulators.
And what do you mean done a couple of simulators?
You can pay to go into a simulator and fly a plane in a simulator.
The big surroundy...
Yeah, you go in and you're moving like that, and you've a guy next to you and all this kind of stuff. Holy crap. Like £100 for like 40 minutes. And the last time I did it, I'm not sure if I've told a story, but the last time I did it, I'll just repeat this quickly, was you can take off from any airport in the world and you can land anywhere.
Did you
It's a simulator, right? So, no, I said, I can't remember. I did it a good few times, but one time I said I want to take off from Cork. He says, what type of plane do you want? I want a 737. He's like, do you not want like a jumbo? I said, I want a 737. And he goes, well, where do you want to land it? And I went, I want to land it on the M1 northbound. Right? And he's looking at me and he goes, what the fuck? I go, I want to land at M1 northbound near Watford Gap. He's looking at me and he's going, you need to land at an airport. I said, this is a fucking simulator. I can land it wherever the fuck I want to. Because why do you want to land it there? Because every time I used to leave London to go north for gigs, Watford Gap services was where they always had the delays. And I know today I just want to get my own back. I'm going to land a fake plane on a fake motorway and cause a bit of damage. I just reminded me of those guys that went to do 9/11. Do you remember? They were like, we don't want to learn how to take off, and we don't want to learn how to land. We just want to learn what it's like there. This guy must be like on the phone to the Met and go, right, we have an Irish guy that's passionate about the M1 northbound. You need to keep like put him on some sort of fucking radar or something like that, you know. But
that, see, in Singapore, you might know this. Coming out of the airport, there's like a 4-lane motorway, and all of the street lamps,
right,
thing going into the city, they're all collapsible because this is an emergency runway in case of military.
Oh right.
It turns into a motorway.
So they could all come down, but one button they could all just come
they
down.
all just sort of collapse down, and then that's a runway. Yeah, taxi driver told me that, so it must be true.
That is amazing. But you know what? I'd say if you actually look at that, that's a place like Singapore and all these places, like they're so advanced with their technology in terms of stuff like that, aren't they? Because if you're landing a plane in high density population, like they have to have alternatives. Like I'm trying to think, there's a country in the world, I'm trying to think which one it is, where the plane comes in and it's on YouTube. Oh geez, it's over. I think it's in India. It's a highly populated country, so it's over in the east. And the way they come in is you're coming in between 2 apartment blocks,
Well, it used to be Hong Kong.
Well, that was Hong Kong. I think it was Hong Kong. Have they changed the airport? Have they moved?
Yeah, they built an island and put the airport on the island.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, it was Hong Kong. Used to be phenomenal video clips of planes coming in there. Well, because you've travelled around the world and stuff like that, have you ever had incidences on flights where you've gone, oh shit? Have you had an incident?
No.
Like, you know the way, like, you know, you've gigged everywhere, but have you ever like gone on a plane and gone, something isn't right here?
There's only one. No, there was. I've only had one where it was really. This is a bit bumpy.
Right, okay.
I like to think about it. It's a van. You're in a van and you're going down a bumpy road.
Oh, right, okay.
That's the way I think about it.
Yeah.
It's just a bumpy road.
And the classic is look at the air crew. If the staff aren't
they
upset,
start panicking.
you start panicking.
And they were getting a wee bit nervy. And that was from Belfast to New York. Only other one was flying back from Singapore. And we stopped in Dubai. And on the way to Dubai, there were all of these girls from Southeast Asia on the flight, like loads of them, and all hijabs on, but all colours. So the girls with green hijabs were sitting here, and then girls with like sort of a lighter green over there, and then girls with yellow hijab were here, and groups of them. And this is weird. And they all looked really not comfortable being on a plane and not very used to it. And we talked to the cabin crew about it, and she told us that it was an Emirates Airlines. Cabin crew was English, and she said they're all going over to work in like Dubai and Saudi Arabia as domestic servants, and they're basically, each one of those colour is a code for, you know, that's one company that supplies them, that's one company that supplies them.
So they're basically being shipped up to work for rich people and get
these
paid
were all, like,
shit money and treated like a piece of shit.
Girls all under the age of 20. And it was just really depressing, and we were just going, oh my God. And there was this girl, I remember she was sitting beside us over here, and she was really uncomfortable and wanted to sleep, but she'd never been in a plane, obviously, and didn't know that you press the button. And so Gavin Willis leans over and he says, then he pressed the button, and I went back like that. She went, oh, and she was like, and I said, oh, and then the word went round, and then they all went,
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
it's
quite
really,
so sad, isn't it?
It was
like,
really, really miserable.
That's the thing when you, like, I've gone over to Dubai and done shows and stuff like that, like, and you've gone over to Middle East and Asia and all that, and I've done the shows and stuff, and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to go to Dubai, I can't wait to go to Asia, I'm going to experience this new culture and stuff like that. And then I remember going to Dubai once, and it was good, like, don't get me wrong, but after about 4 days, I was like 4 days, oh God. And you kind of see certain things, and you kind of go, I remember talking to a radio DJ from Scotland, and he was a radio DJ out there at the time, and he came out of a pub. He came out of a hotel. He was in a bar in the hotel, and he came out with his mate one night at 11 o'clock, and he saw an Arab man beating up his wife. So they went over, and they separated them, and then they got arrested, and he spent 6 weeks in prison.
What?
In Dubai. And he came out. So what to do is, this is what he told me. He said, in Dubai, you're kind of like guilty before you're innocent.
All right.
Like, it's very strict, especially if you're from the West. And because he was a local man, they have a bit more sway.
Yeah.
And also he had alcohol in him. So it's a bit like, you know, like you know when you have like 5 or 6 pints and you see something on the street, you go, I'll go over there and sort that out.
Yeah.
Whereas if you weren't drinking, you're like, don't even get involved.
Yeah.
So I think he was, you know, he went over and he just separated them. Like, he was trying to calm him down, and the police arrived, put him in. He said he spent 6 weeks, and eventually he got released because it was deemed that he was obviously trying to be a peacemaker. So he just came out, packed his bags, straight back to Scotland. He's now working in like TV and presenting in Scotland. Lovely man. But I said, what was it like being in prison in Dubai? And he said, you know what? He said, it actually wasn't that bad. He said, because I was in pre-prison.
Oh,
I was in not guilty. I was in the, we don't know if you're guilty
Purgatory.
or not. You're in that sort of loop where we'll figure it out what happens.
Yeah.
And then if you get convicted, you go to prison. He had snooker tables, they had books, they had TVs. Like, you're sharing a dorm.
Yeah.
And you had fellas in there like from, you know, India and the Philippines who were maybe accused of stealing from their employer and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But he said it wasn't that bad. He said, I thought I was going to be put up to banged up abroad like Australia.
Yeah.
In a cage with 12 people and rats everywhere. You know, that kind of way.
When you go to break up a fight now, do you?
It's not something I would do regularly, Colin.
No, but it's. I attract them.
Would you ever step in if you see something like that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Would that be with pints now?
Yeah, a couple of drinks and I'll step in.
Fucking hell. With gigging in Belfast through the years, you must have seen stuff.
I was beaten up every weekend when I was a kid. Like, seriously, not by my family. And by random strangers. Yeah, I was honestly, from
were you a troublesome kid?
From the age of about 15 to 17, 18.
Were you?
No, but mind my own business. I grew up in a small town and I had sort of spiky hair like Robert Smith and wore Bondi trousers and, you know, leather jackets and things. And
alternative.
So people automatically went, he needs a fucking kicking.
and he's got an RTE aerial.
And so I used to get just by random men, like not kids, like men, like walking up the road would just clock you, and that would be it. And then you get it over with on the Friday, and you're like, I'm all right for the weekend now. So, Jesus. So I'd have a couple of drinks and then I'd sort of step in. But I realised, I've noticed myself doing it. The last time I did it was a couple of years ago, but the last time I did it was I turned into my dad. I turned into a proper old fella. And then I realised, I'm stepping in here, and there's a couple of young fellas, and I am an old fella, because it was the noise I made to separate the fight.
Right.
Do you know what? I genuinely made this noise, and I heard myself doing it at the time, and I went, don't. Hey.
Classic, that classic one.
Classic dad thing. Hey. No need for that there, right? You, over there, stop being a fucking idiot. Come on.
Oh my God. Do you know what? That is so cool, because, would you believe it? I was recently in Glasgow with Steve Gribben, very funny comedian from Liverpool, and we were walking home from the gig, and Steve, he plays guitar, so he's got his guitar on his back, and we'd finished this the weekend in Glasgow, and we're walking down and we're looking at each other, and he's like, pint, and I'm like, pint, and he goes, where are we going? Now, Glasgow, great city, but late at night, fucking hell. Yeah. Like, Rangers had played that day at home, and you're just like, Jesus. So we're trying to find a bar that we could just sit. We just want to, I'm at this point now where it's noisy.
In the city centre?
In the city centre.
We're
like,
hard.
That's noisy.
Yeah.
There's 6 doormen. We're not going there.
No. Sucky Hole Street's a nightmare.
So we're walking down the street, and next thing we see 2 lads just walk past us. Just nothing wrong. Seemed like decent lads, probably late 20s. Just 2 Scottish lads. And then about 10 yards behind him, there's one fella. Come on, man. Fucking come on, man. Fucking come on, man, eh? So he then passes us. And me, classic, what's going on there now? What's your man doing? So I'm thinking he's actually just friends with him, and the boys have left him.
Yeah.
So next thing, he goes for the 2 boys, and the 2 boys cross the road to avoid him. Yeah. And your man then crosses the road, and he's like this, like, fucking Aviation, eh? Yeah, he's doing all this kind of stuff. So me and Steve, and I just went, this is better than a pint. But do you know what happened up in Glasgow? It wasn't all the rubbish in white bags next to the street bins.
Because of the bin strike?
The bin strike. So what'd your man do? He picks up a fucking bin, and now there's about 8 of us looking. So they're across the road. The 2 boys are standing there looking at him. Your man's there, like, you're a fucking fanny. He's doing all this kind of stuff, right? And he's got a bin and just whatever, like fucking milk bottles and wrappers and takeaways and all that, like. And he just throws it. But as he throws it, he kind of loses his balance. Now he's pissed as fuck, right? But he doesn't fall.
Yeah.
He kind of stumbles. But the bin goes nowhere near the 2 boys. So the 2 boys then cross back over, thinking, we're not going to fight the guy.
No.
Like, they're not, the 2 boys would have taken, I don't know what's happened, but they walk back over, and I'm saying to Steve, and the 2 boys are heading to this pub, but they're actually going over to the bouncers. I think they're looking for like some protection.
Yeah.
So I said, Steve, if they go in there for a pint, obviously the bouncers will let them in, but they won't let you, man. We'll go in there because I want to know what went on. Like, and Steve's like, no, fuck it, come on, we go back to the hotel. So next thing, your man follows them over, and now the bouncers are involved. Do you see what I mean? And it's like the escalation.
These guys, that's what these guys do.
Like, this is just escalation from alcohol.
Yeah. And those guys have done nothing. I was like those guys. I used to just walk along and the beady-eyed alky would go, here's the bastard for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And, they'd just make their way over to me.
And it just seems how these things can escalate. And the last time I was in Glasgow, I swear to fuck, I was staying in the hotel from the stand, right? This is no word of a lie. And I love Glasgow. I think it's a great city. But but I only know the city centre from gigging, right? So I don't know what the outskirts are like. I'm walking back from the Stand Comedy Club, and I see a police van, 2 police vans, and there's a guy there in cuffs. No different than you and me. Nice shirt, nice jeans, and there's a woman there, 2 other lads, 2 other women. They've obviously, but they were the most well-dressed rough couple I've ever seen. So I don't know what's happened in a restaurant, but all I hear is the Scottish guy turn around to the police officer and just went, mate, that's fine, mate. You just make sure the wife gets home safely, will you? So he's obviously gone, I don't mind going to the cells, but make sure she gets home. But nobody was kicking off. Like, it didn't seem to be a fight, unless he was wanted. And found him.
Or, dodgy credit cards. I used to work in a restaurant. There was a guy tried to pay in Belfast, and this guy tried to pay, really shifty guy. And waitress went up to him and with the bill and things, and he says, all right, there you go, love. And then produces this gold credit card. She goes off, swipes it, comes back, it's been rejected, I'm sorry. And he went, no problem. Takes out another one, gives it to her. She heads over the thing, goes off, swipes it, and then it's rejected again. Man. goes down again, and then the third one goes up, and then the manager comes down and he says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Patel, but you're oh, sorry, Ms. Patel, sorry, I'm going to have to cut." And then he had to take out the scissors and cut this up in front of him.
I've done that.
And your man lost it, like really lost it, and then disappeared out of the restaurant and came back in with a fistful of cash and threw it down, and didn't even wait, just threw it all down, and then there you go.
He's obviously he's withdrawn it from the hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Like.
But more than he needed, just to prove a point.
Wow, do you know what? That like I was a waiter for years. How long did you?
I was a dishwasher. I was never allowed to be a waiter because I looked like this. So I was fuck off. I was immediately put into kitchens. Every single restaurant I worked in, I was put in a kitchen.
Really?
Yeah, I worked in restaurants for years.
So just pot washing.
Yeah, pot washing and dishwashing.
I remember I was waitering in Manchester in a place on Deansgate, which was next to the living room called Label Bar. It was my first job when I arrived in Manchester when I was 24 years of age. I wasn't even doing comedy. I was on whatever £9 an hour, £8 an hour, whatever it is. And I remember one day I was working. I was just hated the job so much, but it was one of those, noisy lunchtime. You go for lunch, but it was noisy. And it's kind of like had that sort of like...
That's the music they play in the restaurant?
Yeah, I was always... so at night time, a Saturday night, like people would come up, can you lower the music? It was trying to be hip, And it was kind of like a posh sort of, the living room bars they used to have, the living room. They used to be like a bit uptown. You have to be on the guest list to get in on this kind of shit. This was trying to be like all cocktails, top shop clothes. This was the place you go to before you go to the rave. But you serve dinner there, and it was so noisy. And I remember one day I was doing a Sunday lunch, and I hadn't slept very well. And this guy comes in, right? Black, looks dodgy, comes up to the bar. Now, the bar was a place you don't... the way in some pubs you sit at the bar?
Yeah.
You don't sit at this bar. You come up, you get your drink, and you go, right? There's no seat. So he comes up and he says, pint of Guinness. Just gets a pint of Guinness. There you go. And he has the paper, Manchester, whatever, news, evening news, whatever it is, right? And he's just flicking the newspaper like that. So the girl serves him, but I'm on the bar as well. So she serves him, and I'm doing something else. And I'm going up and down and up and down. He takes 2 sips of the Guinness, and he turned, now 2 chunks, right down to where the words Guinness are saved, that kind of level. And he turns around to her and he says, top that up. And she went, yeah, but like you've drank like a third of the drink, so you can't, we don't do top ups, like. And then he flicks over the paper, and it's just this massive knife.
In the paper?
He put a knife in the paper. He brought a paper in, he had a knife in the paper. Right? So I'm standing there. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Like I don't see the knife.
Uh-huh.
And he just flips it over, and he just looks at the knife, looks at her, and went, top it up, and then puts the paper back over the knife.
Yeah.
So she tops it up,
uh-huh.
and she leaves the bar, and I'm there. She doesn't tell me. She tells me what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
She doesn't tell me. So I'm just standing there, fucking. She's left me with a fucking guy with a knife in the Manchester Evening News in Label Bar on Deansgate. Next thing I would say, I'm going to say maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah.
2.5 minutes. This fucking door opens, and in come 5 coppers with fucking...
Like at speed?
Fucking that, mate.
Yeah.
The place is busy, like.
Yeah.
Say if there was 50 tables... No, say if there was 25 tables, 12, 13 tables are full. Sunday fucking lunch. It's fucking guns. And the guy's standing there, and they go up to him, and 2 coppers go up behind him, hands fucking right behind. Fucking, the guy had him over the table, elbow into the back. And the guy didn't resist.
Yeah.
Didn't resist. Cuffed him, opened the paper, fucking knife like that. We come in, we do statement after statement after statement after statement. And then about 5 minutes later, a copper comes in and goes, he's wanted.
He was just mooching around and...
Let's say he probably wanted to get caught. Like,
he
wanted to get... He knew he was going to be done. He wanted to get caught. We're called to prison.
Did your woman you work in the bar, did she go and call the cops?
She left, called the cops, never came back to the bar. I'm fucking walking around the bar.
Well, that would make him suspicious. If you both left.
If we both left, yeah. No one told me, so I went back in and I went, what about my duty of care? What about my safeguarding at work? And they were looking at it and goes, yeah, but if you didn't know, we thought once he got his point, we could contain him. You can contain him. But I didn't know. But if I'd have known, man, I'd done what the fucking do. I'd pick up a bottle of fucking peach schnapps or something and just fucking start banging him in the head, like. But I quit like 2 weeks after that. I was disgusted with how I wasn't told about that. Like, there was no safeguarding there. And then the police arrived. Everyone's like going mental in the restaurant. And then that was it. He leaves, and we come back in, and we went round and offered everybody in the restaurant a free drink, an apology. And they're like, what went on there? He goes, well, I was nearly fucking stabbed.
And apparently you're getting a free fucking drink.
You're getting a free drink, and I was nearly fucking stabbed. And I'm on fucking £8.90 an hour. I'll never forget it. And we used to get, because I was when you worked in, did you always work, like, before you became like a full-time comedian, what was your jobs before that? Like, when did you actually say to yourself, oh, comedy, I actually pay the bills now from comedy, or what was the thing before? Will you find it hard to keep a job? Or
no, I was working. No,
I
was working. I was washing dishes, and then I was freelancing. I was designing posters and things and doing art stuff, and then I was teaching part-time and...
Jack of all trades, really?
Yeah, anything.
And then when it got to the
door-to-door sales, that was another one that did that.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, did door-to-door in Bristol. I did that.
What is the...
Selling burglar alarms in Bristol.
What was the worst reaction you got to that?
The worst reaction was, it was in an estate or an area called Hartcliffe, right?
In Bristol?
Yeah, really.
You were in uni in Bristol, were you?
I was, for a year. I was over there doing stuff. And I was knocking on doors, and I was going from one house to the other house, and then the guy who was in charge of the group, the guy who was in charge of the group was with 5 of us, and he was proper Bristolian, short, fat tie, one of those guys, streaky hair, moustache, everything, and he comes running across this sort of central green area with, I'd say, 7 men chasing him and 3 pit bulls, right? And he just goes, "Get in the fucking car!" And he went, boop, boop, boop. And I went, Jesus, and jumped into his car, which I nearly, from memory, was some sort of Ford Capri looking thing. And we get into this sort of low-end sports car, and then he was revving, run, run, and guys were banging on the bonnet. And then he spun the car, knocked them over, and then drove across the green, mounted the curb. They were chasing. There were other people coming with dogs running, barking at the side of the car. He was laughing, hitting the dashboard, going, "I love my fucking job." What did you do? And he says, "We had a minor disagreement."
Minor? What was a major one?
With a potential client. And I don't know what he did. He wouldn't tell us. Yeah.
Fucking hell. How? That is a Belfast guy in England. In what year were we talking?
89.
A Northern Irish guy, Belfast person, in England, in the 80s, knocking on English people's doors, selling doors, going,
"Right, love. Do you want any burglar alarm?
Do you want any burglar? Why? We don't need one. I think you'll find..."
Well, there were a list of things up in the...
I'm in the area, so you fucking do need one.
There were a list of things up in the office that said, "Right, if they say that, you say this." And it was proper Glengarry, Glenross stuff.
Oh, right, so you have objection handling. Yeah.
And so they had the whole thing, "I have a dog." And then they would reveal, "Have you heard they've been poisoning meat and putting it through letterboxes in the area?" They haven't.
Oh, right.
And so there was an answer for everything.
So you could keep them talking to the point where
the idea was,
scare them, basically.
Yeah. So they'd try out the new people on pensioners. So there would be me, and there'd be some other guy that knew what he was doing, and then we'd go and only knock on old people's doors, and he'd look for the handles, outside the doors, the assistants sort of handles to get in and out, so he knew a pensioner lived there. And they'd go, "We'll try that one." And so we're not going to waste you, basically, on a potential actual sale. These people are never going to buy, but you can test out your patter on them. And so they'd knock at the door, and then there'd be a wee old woman standing there. And I'd have to do all of this. "Well, I've got a dog." And you're terrifying the life out of this woman that's never going to buy. She's on a pension. She can't afford a burglar alarm. She's in a terrace house. And so I'd give up.
How long did you do it for?
4 days.
What, did you make any sales?
No. I made 3 leads.
Yeah.
And then you only get paid for a lead, and then you only get paid more money if you get a sale. So, but not with the pensioners, with like actual people who could afford to buy this thing. And so I used to back off to all the pensioners. I'd go, "Oh, don't worry, it's fine. God, it's a lovely wee dog. What's its name?" And I'd chat away to the dog then. And I'd go, "Oh," and then she was all chat to me, "Do you want to come in for a cup of tea?" And then I said, "Oh, no, I'm not allowed to go in. You're not allowed to go into people's houses and do that." And he'd say, "Oh, that's great. God, you keep your garden really lovely, don't you?" And then I do all of this. And then the guy behind me would be going, he says, "You're wasting time." And I said, "I am not a fucking bastard."
Yeah. Oh, that's good to have a conscience there.
So I walked away after 3 days, I think it was. And then the guy, when I left, said, "I'm not doing this anymore. What you do, it's not right. Doing all that." He says, "Bloody hell, you Irish guys." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You're the 3rd one. You can't, you've no sticking power." And they all walk away for the same reason.
Wow.
The 3 Irish guys walked away because you were made to scare your granny, basically.
That's because we've got, like, we understand what's happening. We understand we're not in it for the money. Look, it's about how you treat people.
Yeah.
And want a bit of respect.
And you'd probably have more of a chance of selling something. If he'd left me on my own, and if I'd have been chatting to her about the dog in the garden and all this sort of thing, I'd probably, it's a lovely wee dog, it's a lovely wee garden. It'd be a shame if anything happened to them. I could have got a sale.
Why is that? Because there's a lot of Northern Irish living in the area.
Yeah, they're lovely windows.
My grandmother got caught with that. You know that? What happened was, back in the 90s, so she lived in Mullingar in County Westmeath. And she
need a burglar alarm.
Yeah, she had a front door.
Yeah.
And literally 5 steps behind her, there was a back door. And you could walk around the side gate. And she opened the door one day, and there was a guy outside. He said, Mrs. Your slates. So she steps out of the house, looks up at the slates, and as she comes out, a guy was waiting at the back. He opens the back, went in, raided the purse.
Wow.
Just the purse. He was in and out within 30, 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Found the handbag, raided the purse, took some money, took a couple of bank cards at the time, and came back out the door. And then as she went back in the front door, he just walks around the side. So she goes back in, knows nothing, knows no different. And it's not until like an hour later or 2 hours later when she opens the purse and she puts 2 and 2 together, the fucking trick. Yeah. To get people in, But
how a burglar alarm was going to stop that? But this is what they were trying to get me to spoof to these people.
It's one of those jobs, mate, that like whenever I see people doing it on the street, when you see the charity muggers.
Oh yeah.
I used to have a routine about how you deal with them, and what you do is with the charity muggers is they catch you by doing a phrase.
Yeah.
So you walk. I had one in London.
Yeah.
They were raising money for prostate cancer, and this guy just went, "Excuse me, are you one of the good guys?"
Oh.
And I just went, not today. And I just kept on walking, right? And there was a guy that stopped me once, and I used to have this routine where I used to say, like, what you do is, when they stop you, you just talk and don't let them talk.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, sir, can I just talk to you? He goes, oh my God, thanks for stopping me. It's a lovely day today, isn't it? Like, geez, I got out of bed at 9:10. It was mad late this morning. I'm just on my way to work now, but you're like, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? I love your clothes as well. Like, you just keep talking. And you turn around to me and go like, so I was, come here, listen. Anyway, listen, I'm running the London Marathon in a couple of weeks, and I was just wondering, is there any chance you'll sponsor me? And they look at you, and then you look at them and you go, what do you want to talk to me about? Nothing, it's all right. You basically ask them for sponsorship.
Yeah.
And that's how you fuck them off.
Well, I used to do it with, especially children's charities, and there would, stuff you go, excuse me, sir, can I save the children? I've already got one. And that's what I used to say and walk past.
But it's stuff like that, like they make the guilt. It's the guilt.
Yeah.
Like how they do it. And they're all like smiley and happy. And you don't want to be an arsehole to a young person who's probably doing a shitty job just to pay a bit of rent for a month or two.
Yeah.
But it's just the sort of like the mentality of stop you and I go, listen, I've enough shit going on in my life. Yeah. Like there's governments out there that can sort this shit tomorrow.
It's the idea that I'm going to give some child in a high-vis jacket my bank details. Because that's what they want. They want your bank details in the street.
But if you're in England and they say you want your bank details, I just go, I'm Irish, man. We don't have the same bank accounts as you guys. Sorry, good. I'm Irish. That's like whenever I go to like shops and stuff, like, oh, what's your postcode? I'm Irish, man. I'm only here on holiday, like. Do you know what I mean? And then you're paying with a fucking NatWest bank card. Yeah. And it goes, we have NatWest in Cork. We like that's an Irish bank. It's the Irish version of NatWest. Like,
I give old, when Gap want to give you a receipt, or they used to want to give can I have your postcode for a receipt? Yeah. I would give my old addresses, so there'd be stuff landing in. There's
somebody like, I'm 62. Why am I getting baby Gap clothes vouchers?
Getting receipts for them.
Colin, I'm very happy to have had you on the podcast just to have a bit of a chat. Now, you're on tour. You're on tour in February. Tell us about the tour. When was the last time you were on tour? Pre-pandemic, obviously.
Pre-pandemic, and then just after the pandemic, I had to finish off 5 dates of the tour.
Right, okay.
You see, so it was like 2 years. I had to go, can I remember the show?
Yeah, and, it's going to be a different show as well.
So I had 5, yes. And then I did some COVID stuff, so some of that will be in the next one. And but yeah, so I haven't written it yet, so I'm still trying stuff out. So I'm still...
You're in that phase, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm doing loads of wee gigs. Like I'm doing a gig in Dalkey on Thursday to try stuff out, and then I'm doing one in the Braid in Ballymena in the wee comedy club, Paddy's Comedy Club, and in Daly's in Omagh, December, beginning of December. So I'm doing loads of those wee gigs to try and work through the material, and then it starts in February in Larne, 11th or something like that of February in Larne, and then Larne, Lisburn are the first 2. And
are these gigs all in the north, or are you down south as well?
I'm doing one in Cavan, one in Dundalk in the Spirit Store, and in Letterkenny in Angreenan.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is we'll put all Colin's details on the YouTube and also on the Instagram stuff. So if you want to go and see a great night of stand-up comedy, make sure you check out Colin Murphy. He's on tour February 2023.
Right away through till April, and it ends in the Opera House, in the Grand Opera House, doing 3 nights there.
Fucking hell, that'd be amazing. And then you're off to Cork for a month.
And then I'm off to Cork for a month.
Down in Glandore. Colin, thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate
cheers,
having
I really
you, man.
enjoyed it.
Appreciate it, John.